You will have 2 hours to complete the exam. When you have finished, close the booklet, turn it face downwards, and raise your hands. You may begin. Mr. Jankowski.
I'm afraid there's been a car accident.
Is there any other family to call?
No, it's just me.
You first discovered The Water for Elephants book when your wife introduced it to you? Was that
I did,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
My wife read the book and knew that I always wanted to do a movie about a circus.
Yeah.
Thought the story was great, so she passed it over my way.
Yeah. What were some of your first impressions upon reading it? Did you immediately think it would make a great movie?
I did. It's one of those books that's kind of written like a movie. It's a very visceral and visual experience, and it's really detailed and textured, and Sarah Gruen really built an amazing world that you kind of feel like you're living in for a while, which is great.
How involved were you in the writing, helping write and develop the screenplay, and tell me about the process of bringing it from the book to screenplay?
I was very involved. I didn't write it myself, but I worked very closely with the writer, Richard LaGravenese, and he started probably in January of, I think, 2009, and after about 8 weeks or so, had his first draft. It was really long and had kind of everything in it. And then he and I started working really closely together after that, and whittling it down and picking what things we wanted to keep in and what things needed to drop away, and refining things and starting to work on the character and making some of the big moves of, we combined a couple of characters, but we did all of that together over the course of a couple of months.
One thing that I really loved about the book and that I think came through really well with the movie is how slowly and tenderly the romance between Jacob and Marlena develops. I feel like there are a lot of movies that really rush or jump into those relationships really fast. Do you want to tell me how you, as the director, kind of developed the chemistry between Robert and Reese and developed the pacing of that relationship?
Well, I think a lot of the love story, started from the script phase, and I know Richard and I really worked on the love story. There's a lot of different little stories that are happening within, but the core, support of the whole movie is the love story between Jacob and Marlena. And we really worked on the development of that. And we quickly learned that, Jacob, Rob's character, Jacob, falls really quickly in love with Reese's character, Marlena. But it takes a lot longer for Marlena to kind of come around to Jacob. And that's a structure that I sort of really like and think that was really interesting for the movie. Because typically people fall in love very quickly, early on in movies, and then somehow the forces work against them so they can't be together. And the truth is here, it's through the course of the movie and through the trauma that they experience together, that's what brings the two of them closer and closer together until, 2/3 of the way through the movie they finally decide that, for the first time that they really want to be together.
Are there any parts of the book that you weren't able to put into the movie but you really wish you could have, or that you were considering keeping but then for whatever reason realized you had to keep out?
No, I mean, look, there's always these great little details there and certain things that you wish you could keep from the book that I enjoyed. But I think for the most part, all the big, kind of tentpole scenes and sequences from the book are there. We had to unfortunately lose a lot of the older Jacob sequences in the nursing home. But that's just, when you're taking down a 14-hour read to a 2-hour movie experience, something has to go away.
Yeah. I really liked how you decided to bookend the film with what ended up being the ending.
That was something that we decided on very early on, was to bookend the movie with older Jacob and at the circus, the modern day circus already. And then the rest we decided to really just focus on that story in 1931.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the research that went into this film, developing this world and this period piece. Sarah Gruen had already done a lot of research. What did you do as the director?
Yeah, Sarah did a bunch of research for the movie, and she obviously knew a lot more about circuses than we all did when we started the movie. But then we went through our own process of research, and that's quite honestly one of the most fun things you can do, when you get to make movies, is you get to sort of go dive in and live in these worlds you wouldn't normally have anything to do with. And so we lived in the circus for, a year and a half. And we went to, one of the first things we did was we went to this place called the Circus World Museum in Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is the old wintering grounds of Ringling Brothers, and it's now a museum. And they have a great archive. And so we went there and met with a bunch of people that really live and work there and know the circus all the way back from when circuses first started. we got our circus wagons from there. We looked at old movies from 1930 circuses, from ringling circuses to second-rate circuses, and we, learned how trains were put together, how many train cars would our circus have, what order are the train cars in, what do the train cars look like depending on who you were and what you did in the circus. And, it was just a lot of fun to go into the real great detail.
Mm-hmm. Now, your previous feature films before this, I feel like are kind of darker than Water for Elephants.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Water for Elephants definitely has its dark moments and its dark sides. It's lighter. You've got a romance at the center of it. What was it like transitioning to a movie like that?
I don't see it's interesting. I mean, I know that people see them as very different movies. For me, there's very similar qualities. I think that I love building worlds. This is the world of Circus in the 30s. I Am Legend was building the apocalyptic world of what happens to a city after everybody dies, and what is it like to live by yourself. But they're also both stories that have kind of rich emotional values within them, so that you can go through and experience lots of different things, wonder and magic, and be scared and thrilled and cry and maybe even laugh a little bit. And that's kind of what I really like about movies. Mm-hmm. But thematically, I wanted to do something that was a little more hopeful and something that was a little more positive. And I was looking to do something that was a little less nihilistic. And also not as much of a genre movie. I wanted something that had a broader appeal, and I was ready to move away from anything having to do with, monsters in any way.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about LMU.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, in what way do you feel like your time with the film school at Loyola Marymount is still influencing you as a director today with your directing choices, with your career path?
Look, I think that my time at LMU was great, mostly for the fact that I got to make movies. That I think it's one of the best things for a film student to do is actually make films. It's really the only way to learn. I think by watching movies and by making movies, and watching them and talking about them and living with other film students and other filmmakers and working on other people's movies and making your own, especially. That's what I really loved, and I thought that we had great support. And at the time that I was there was great professors, and mm-hmm. I learned a lot from them. And but it was really making the movies. You really start to figure out what it takes to tell a story on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Who were some of the professors you say were like a real influence on you?
Ian Connor was my professor for 460, 360, and 460 for my intermediate and advanced film courses, and just a really, really great, kind of nurturing, smart guy.
Mm-hmm. And what is some advice you'd give to film students who are looking to enter the film industry today?
My advice would be, to make. I think when I was in school, nobody really had film cameras, and, you couldn't cut on your laptop, and, so it was trickier, and it was much more expensive to shoot your own projects. Now, everybody's got some kind of a digital camera and some kind of laptop, and, you can get Final Cut for $1,000, and, you can do really professional work. And I think it's just about writing your own pieces and shooting stuff all the time and making as much as you can. And it's the way to get better and the way to make cool stuff, and, just keep coming up with ideas.
What do you feel like you've learned, since you've graduated, or you didn't get from the film school specifically, that, students should be prepared to know about the industry?
Something that was tricky was just, dealing with people in the business a little bit. I think, when I was at film school, it was a much smaller film school than it is now. And, you were there in your little bubble, kind of making your movies with your friends, and you sort of hope that something happens with them. And then you get out into the world and you realize, oh, wow, there's a lot of competition, and you don't really know the way the world works, the world of film, mm-hmm. and the business. And so it was getting used to that, how, agencies work and managers work and lawyers work, and how the business works, and how do you get, reels in, and, how are you going to get a job? That was tricky.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to ask you was, are there any other books out there that you would like to adapt to a film that would be kind of your dream book?
I just got attached to a book called Unbroken, written by Laura Helen Brown, that just came out. It's in the New York Times top bestseller list. That tells a story about Lou Zamperini, who was mm-hmm. a really fantastic track runner in the 30s, and then went to World War II and just had this incredible story of survival during World War II.
Mm-hmm. Are there any others, any classics you want to try too?
No, not right now. No, not all the classics have been made. I don't want to do any remakes.
Yeah.